Hello, and welcome to the new episode of the podcast from Firetop Mountain. I am Alison, Cybe, and I am joined today by Stuart, Lloyd. We are here to play through yet another fighting fantasy adventure. Say hello, Stuart.
Hello, Stuart. Yes.
Hello. How are you
Hello.
today?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Oh, but what adventure are we playing tonight?
Oh, I'm very excited. I think we're both very excited because it's Moonrunner.
I know. Yes, it's almost like we said what it was going to be at the end of the last podcast.
We did, yes. I think our excitement came across there as well. But
yes, I'm very, very keen for this one. But first of all, we have a slight correction that we need to address. Stuart, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, because at the end of the last podcast, I said that the reprints, the only books that have been reprinted were by Steve Jackson in Livingstone or Jonathan Green, and that wasn't true because Sword of the Samurai and Talisman of Death have been reprinted, and they're by Jamie Thompson and Mark Smith. So I think, and Jamie Thompson goes to Fighting Fantasy Fest. So I think the books that have been reprinted are basically from people who are still going to Fighting Fantasy Fest, basically.
Possibly.
Yes,
it's possible. Yes, but nevertheless, we have that is our correction. So we stand corrected. Please do not leave us any more comments about that. But please do leave us plenty of comments about Moonrunner.
Yeah. Oh, actually,
yes.
Can I say one more thing about this orchestra thing? So
Absolutely.
Legend of Zagor got reprinted, which was by Ian Livingstone at the time, but it turns out it was actually by Keith Martin, which wasn't.
Was it?
Yeah, it wasn't a big surprise because it was a very Keith Martin-y book. It was very go to lots of places, get lots of items, have lots of bonuses, fight lots of overpowered things, but have lots of bonuses as well. But it was Ian Livingstone on the cover at the time, but it turned out it was Keith Martin.
Keith, you have finally got the credit for the work. Thank you. Well done. Congratulations. So, Moonrunner.
Oh, yes.
I'll do our little intro title. So, Moonrunner. Early in the 21st century, the Tyrell Corporation advanced robot evolution into the Nexus phase, a being virtually identical to a human known as a replicant. The Nexus 6 replicants were superior in strength and agility, and at least equal in intelligence to the genetic... Sorry, Stuart, you've just handed me a note. No, that's the intro text for Blade Runner. Okay. Stuart, do you want to do the intro for Moonrunner?
Yes, well, there is another type of runner. So, yes, Moonrunner is in the... it's in the old world. This is my intro text I'm making up right now on the top of my head.
Yes. Make it sound equally as dramatic and exciting.
In the 3rd century after Chaos, in the city of Blackhaven, in the old world, you have been summoned by an old soldier to settle an old score of yours. Karam Grull, one of the generals from the War of the Four Kingdoms, has escaped justice ever since the War of the Four Kingdoms ended, and you have been tasked to find him and bring him to justice.
So we are basically hunting down someone who used to fight in the war.
Yes, well, he was the general. He was a war criminal, and
that is the plot from Blade Runner, isn't it?
Yes, that is true. Yes, that is.
Okay. Yes. So we are tracking down the General Karim Grull, who has eluded capture, and that's quite nice. I like that. It's not the usual wizard raising an evil army, go and kill it type of scenario.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I mean, this book, you can't kill Karim Grull. Spoiler alert. But you actually do bring him to justice if you win, which is a nice ending because. Yes, because it is a bit more mature than just killing a wizard and then stealing his gold. Which, but there we go. It is book 48, so I guess maturity sort of set in by then.
Yeah, I think by the time you got to books the 30s in the series, you were getting a lot of evil wizards raising armies. By the time you got into the 40s, we were kind of branching out and looking for new things. I thought that was really cool. I liked that. I like that in this one, the fugitive that you're looking for, Groll, is believed to be under the protection of a cult called the Cabal of Werewolves.
Oh yes, yeah, and yes, they don't know very much about the Cabal of Werewolves. So that's basically, you don't have much to go on, which is well, it's quite interesting at first. So
Yeah.
yes, you got to find it.
Another thing I found quite interesting is that you have a personal grudge to settle with Groll as well.
You do, but it doesn't go into any more detail until later on. So we'll find out. What is that personal grudge?
That's like a plot hook.
Yeah, exactly. This is why I wrote about it in the Fighting Fantasy thing.
You did, yes. Big plugs for that. Yes, if you listeners have a chance to check out the Fighting Fantasy
Fantasy.
Yes, thank you. Do you want to do the talking from now on, and I'll just go and lie down? Lie down. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's the excitement of playing Moonrunner. Yes. Yes. I can't remember which issue it was, but Fighting Fantasy ranked all of the Fighting Fantasy books at the time, and Moonrunner came number 5. And since it was top 10, somebody wrote a sort of essay about each one, and I got to write about Moonrunner, so I was very pleased about that because. I have said how much I love it on various forums in the past. So yes.
So you begin the adventure, basically being hired on by who is it that's hiring you for the
it's
General Major Breton. My notes say.
I'm looking at that. It's Bennett.
Bennett. Is it Bennett?
Yeah.
I've missed. No, sorry, that's my handwriting. General Major Bennett is basically like enlisting you to do this. Offers you a good amount of pay. No sooner has he done so than he keels over dead, assassinated by a throwing dagger hurled through the window of the fort, no less.
Exactly. Yeah. He doesn't make it past section 1, which is another thing I love about Karam Groll as a villain, because in the earlier Fighting Fantasy books, the main villain would just sort of sit in their room and wait for you to come and kill them. But Karam Groll, he's very proactive.
I mean, he's killed our plot giver already.
Yes, and unfortunately, because this is a highly classified mission, nobody else has any idea that you've just been hired for this. So, so now you're just stuck in a room with a dead general, and
that's not looking good.
No, it's not looking good. It's definitely not. That's a very awkward situation.
Yeah. Well, quickly I examine the blade and recognize it as the work of one of the local artisans. No time for further investigation of the crime scene, though, as I charge through the window after the assassin. And I get to use one of my skills, the acrobatics skill, which allows me to get quickly to the ground. Would you like to tell us about not just the acrobatic skills, but all the skills available to you?
Oh yes, because you're an experienced bounty hunter. You've got 4 skills from a list of, I think, 9. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 9. So acrobatics is one of them. There's also lockpicking. There's climbing, combat, con, disguise, lockpicking, sleight of hand, sneak, and tracking. And sort of most of them are self-explanatory. Combat might need a bit of explanation because you can do combat anyway because you can fight. But if you have the combat skill, you can also wound every opponent who you get higher attack strength on. If you're doing a sort of multi-opponent combat, which is pretty strong, that'll make things easier. Yeah. So yes, but so you get 4 of those.
And I believe the vast majority of those have they unlock in-game text options. So it comes up and says if you have this skill, you can choose this. So you know instantly if they're of any use to you or not.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Which ones did you pick?
I picked lockpicking, con, sneak, and sleight of hand.
Stealthy.
Yes. Well, yes. Well, yes. Well, there's there's a couple of skills you need, otherwise you die later on. So I'm not going to say which ones, but yes.
So you didn't have the acrobatics one, so you couldn't jump through the window like I did. So what did you do?
Well, first. Oh, which skills did you have as well? So you had acrobatics. Were you?
I had acrobatics, and I had a couple others I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm sure we'll get to them.
Yes, I'm fairly sure I took lockpicking.
Yeah, that's a really special one. So I ignored Bennett with the knife in his back. I went straight for the drawer where he just told me there was gold in a letter because I guess I thought I'd get something out of the situation. So which was good because I needed lockpicking to get into that. So
you robbed the place.
Yes, I robbed the place. So
I'm sure the town guard won't think that's at all suspicious.
Well, they already think I've murdered him, so I might as well get some gold out of it as well.
yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so we'll see you when you roll up a new character after your previous ones got thrown in prison for murder and thievery.
Well, yes. So yeah.
Oh dear. So yeah, what else? So you help yourself to some gold, and then what?
Well, then I jump out the window, which I could still do without acrobatics, but I took some stamina damage from that, so I didn't quite do it as sort of as gracefully as you did. I sort of got some bruises. So, but yes, so we both jumped out the window, which was about the only way out. Yeah. And then there's some sort of. Well, then I ran after the assassin.
Same.
Okay. Yes, and so because I had sneak, I was able to sort of follow the assassin back to where he'd come from. Is that? Did you manage that?
I did not. No. I accidentally alerted the assassin to the assassin. I alerted the assassin to my presence, whereupon he hurled a smoke bomb at me and made good his escape. So I had to find another route of investigation. I decided to check out the artisan who had crafted the knife, hoping that I might be able to find some kind of clue there. And instead, I realized that he'd been cleared out of town, and his house, was empty, save for a particularly nasty pit trap that had been left on the doorstep for me, which was nice. Sure, that keeps the burglars out.
Well, yes, exactly. Yes,
fell into a cage beneath the doorstep. Which almost washed me out into the river. Thankfully, I happened to pick a few other skills, and I was able to pull myself free without being drowned in the city's wet and sewage-encrusted river. But never mind, that one didn't work out too well for me. How did your route go?
Well, I ended up in a theatre where I discovered one of Karam Grul's servants called the Corpse Master.
Oh, God.
Yes, someone with that kind of name, it's not going to go end well. But he's sort of like a cross between the Phantom of the Opera and Freddy Krueger. I think that's what he's going for, because there's a lot of Hammer horror sort of references in these books.
Oh yes, yeah. This one, and I believe Legend of the Shadow Warriors all have very strong pulp horror film kind of vibes to them.
Yes, yeah. So that's another reason why I love it as well. It's very even before I knew much about Hammer horror and pulp horror, I loved the imagery in it when I was reading it as a younger person. So I actually, against all the odds, I actually conned the Corpse Master into thinking that Karam Grul has betrayed him, and then the Corpse Master swears to kill Karam Grul and disappears.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that was a bonus. Of course, the downside to that is he leaves a fire behind for some reason as like a parting present. So I have to get out of the the theatre really pretty harshly, sharply. But yeah, I mean that was a bonus. And like Stephen Hand tries to tempt me to look into a big wooden strongbox before I leave the burning building. But
We should probably clarify Stephen Ham is the person who wrote the book.
yes, that's true. The
Oh,
author,
this
yes,
one. Yes.
yes.
Who
So
also wrote Legend of the Shadow. What is, if I'm right?
yes, and
There we go. Yes.
yes, there's lots of links, and then there's one that he wrote before, Dead of Night. So
that makes sense.
yes,
That explains a lot of Dead of Night. Then yes, they
yes.
have that same feel to them, the same kind of vibe. That je ne sais quoi. I'm describing it like a wine. I don't know.
Yes.
It's a fine, crispy rosé.
Yes, exactly.
But I almost fall into a sewage-encrusted river. Dear. Yes. So I didn't really have any leads, so I decided to hit up the local tavern and ask for advice, which wasn't really good. I mean, what am I going? I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was going to like maybe walk up to the barman and say, "Hi, do you know anything about the cabal of werewolves?" Yeah, it's not the wisest course of action. So I got thrown out of the tavern.
No, asking about secret societies never seems to go well.
I wonder why.
I don't know. They just really want to keep them secret. It's really annoying.
It's so infuriating. I'm having flashbacks to that time I was in Eyes Wide Shut now.
I haven't seen that film actually. I should, because it's a Kubrick film.
Oh yeah. It's one of his later ones, and has absolutely nothing to do with Moonrunner.
Okay.
but perhaps we will do a spin-off where we watch and analyze Kubrick films.
Oh well, yes. We can talk about how, because the boy in The Shining wears an Apollo 11 jumper, that obviously Kubrick faked the moon landings.
Obviously. 100%, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So yes, what happened? I met a sagely old professor lady who offered to help me recover from my what by this point is really a recurring habit of getting beaten up by entire hordes of people. This is Professor Van Heldegast, which is definitely a fortuitous name. The most fortuitous name in the history of the universe.
Yes, definitely.
Takes me to her home, lets me rest up, and I'm going. I figure it's all going to go quite well. Knowing from having played quite a few of the fantasy books, this will likely be the final moment of comfort in my terribly short and gruesome life. So I'm not hoping for the best, but nevertheless, Professor Van Heldengast does come through and provides a rather lovely dinner.
That's good. Yes. She good. And then she gives you food and money as well, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm. And tells me that Gruul is a practitioner of a rare form of sorcery, and that we can overcome it by acquiring 6 relics, which are scattered throughout town. She gives me the shopping list of items for me to pick up from interesting places around town, and I can basically go and do some of ye old item quest shopping. So it's not been a complete waste, and maybe it was worth just randomly walking into that tavern and getting beaten up by a whole group of people.
Well, yes, exactly. Because yes, these things work out in the end generally.
Did you get to meet the professor?
I did, because she's like a sort of point where everything converges. I had a couple of other adventures before I met her, though.
Oh, she's a convergence point. That makes sense.
Yes. So yeah, I went to a mill to find someone who'd been betraying the guard, who Bennett had kind of alluded to, and yeah, I mean that didn't end. I mean, I killed him, and then he got resurrected, put on a face mask, and got a machete because he basically became a fancy version of Jason. and because he wouldn't die, and so I managed to escape.
This is normal in these adventures.
Yes. Yes. So then I managed to escape him by setting the mill on fire, which at that point I'd visited 2 buildings and burnt them both down. So I was wondering if my character was secretly an arsonist.
Quite possibly.
Well, yeah.
That's what the grudge is that you've got. Gruul once arrested you for arsony.
Exactly. And I just want to burn it all down. So I then also went to an insane asylum to meet an informant and met a sort of and then met someone. It was kind of a front for a man who had put his mother's brain in a Frankenstein's monster he'd made from the inmates, and she was actually a character from Legend of the Shadow Warriors, and if the adventurer had the chance to kill her in Legend of the Shadow Warriors, and her son was trying to put her back together again. So yeah, but I actually managed to get to the informant in that one. He was trapped in the insane asylum, but there we go. And then I went to the tavern. So yeah, so and I managed to sort of not burn down the insane asylum or the tavern. So
the tavern.
Yeah, so I think my arsony spree had sort of stopped at 2 buildings, which was good because yeah, I mean, how much of a hero can you be if you burn down literally every building you walk into? It's not going to.
I mean, that's a good point. Yes. So you'll have then been given the same list of items and had a few places you could go. Where did you decide to go first?
Well, the first one was pretty straightforward. I went to the shop and bought some dried vampire blood for 40 gold pieces.
Why didn't I do that? I went to the Circus of Horrors first.
Oh, well, there we go. Well, you didn't rob the dead man at the beginning, so you may not have had enough gold for that. So
that makes sense.
So there you go. If you're going to be accused of murder, you might as well do some stealing as well. So,
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't go to the Circus of Horrors. The Chamber of Horrors. Yes.
Chamber of Horrors. Yes. It's not a Circus of Horrors, is it?
No, but there is a circus in Legend of the Shadow Warriors.
Yes, and there is an actual performing group called the Circus of Horrors, and every now and then they do come to town, and they are very, very exciting.
Oh, cool. Oh,
there's a sword swallower called Hannibal. If you're listening, hello. I hope you're enjoying the podcast.
Yes, hopefully. Probably whilst swallowing a couple of swords at the time.
Yeah, he can swallow about 3 or 4 swords at the once. It's really impressive. The Chamber of Horrors in this is not the same at all. No.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's like a waxworks display, really.
Okay, so like Madame Two Swords.
Yeah, but if Madame Two Swords had a horror section, I don't know. I'm actually thinking the one in Blackpool did have a horror section, didn't it?
Two
Swords in Blackpool.
I haven't been to the one in Blackpool. Maybe I'll have a look next time.
I don't know if it still does.
That's a shame. Maybe there'll be Google images of it. So we could. So you could stand by a vampire and sort of pretend that he's about to suck your blood or something.
Yeah, it involves it has quite a few waxworks. It also had a shroud that a necromancer was once buried in, tucked in amongst the displays.
And that's the artifact, is it?
Well, when I say it had it, I mean it had it past tense until I nicked it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. And okay, that went quite well then.
If anyone asks, Professor Van Heldergast told me to do it.
Yes. You've got to think of
So it's totally reputable to just break into the local waxworks museum and steal a necromancer's shroud.
Well, if we're tracking down a war criminal, I'm sure they'll understand once you've done it. I'm sure they'll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I went to the curio shop to get the vampire blood.
Yes. Well, yes, it's probably good to get the vampire blood quite late, because every time you win a combat, there's a chance it might break in your pack and mix with your opponent's blood and turn back into the vampire, which didn't happen to me. But yes, that's a funny little side quest. just in, having to fight a vampire. But yes, it didn't happen to me. That was fine. Where did I go? Well, I went to the most interesting encounter. I think was the Three Broken Fingers Tavern. Did you go to that one?
I don't think I did. No, I went to a temple after. No, actually, no. I went to an old abandoned prison after the curio shop, and then I went to the temple.
Oh yes, you didn't go. I didn't go to the prison. That's the one with the chain, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh yes. And was it okay to get? Did you get the chain? Okay.
From the prison.
Yes.
Well, can I just leave it at
Okay, we'll get to that. Right. Well, the Three Broken Fingers Tavern has. You got to do a spot of grave robbing. You've got to get a skull, and the Three Broken Fingers Tavern has a couple of grave robbers that Van Heldengast knows about, but she doesn't really go in. She doesn't really go into why she knows a couple of. Oh, they're called body snatchers in this. She doesn't really know why she goes into them. It knows about them, but there we go. We'll leave that to our imaginations. But basically, they just can't be trusted at all. So you just basically have to not go along with anything they want. So at first they offer you a drink, but you don't do that. Don't sort of accept any drinks from them. I'll use my sleight of hand special skill to swap my ale with their ale. So it was Kilmarnie and Hogg, and Hogg does all the talking. I think they're based on Laurel and Hardy. Hogg's the sort of short one who does all the talking, and Kilmarnie's a very tall one who.
See, I'd have thought that would have been based on the Princess Bride for a moment.
The short one and the tall one, like the.
No, swapping the glasses around.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, it could be. Oh, yes. Well, no. Well, you don't. There is only one that's drugged. Spoilers for the Princess Bride.
Yes, and massive spoilers for this 30-year-old film that you've just ruined forever. Oh,
there we go. Yes, I know. Well, there we go. That's what I'm here for. But there we go. So, well, eventually I get the skull just by not being nice to Kilmarnie and Hogg at all, which is good because that's the most powerful one apparently. I also go to a shrine and solve a puzzle, and by solve it I mean I flick through the book until I find the number that makes sense, and then get the sort of answer. And
I have a suspicion that shrine's the same as the temple that I went to, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, yes. And then I also go to Gallows Square and get a.
Oh, I've not gone to Gallows Square yet.
Oh, I get a hand from a corpse that's been hanging, and then go to a necromancer who enchants it for me. So that was pretty good.
Well, let me catch up with you.
Okay.
So I was able to acquire the vampire blood through less than reputable means.
Oh right, okay. Oh, you stole the vampire.
I might not have been particularly nice to the shop owner, we'll say.
Okay.
Went over to the old abandoned jail to recover the chain. The chain was used to bind a powerful demon, and having unchained the demon, all I had to do was kick it back into the pit that it crawled out of. Interesting fact about demons, they're vulnerable to being jump kicked.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'll remember that.
You always do, yes. If you're ever needing to kick a demon back into a pit, just a few swift jump kicks, and then I'm off to the shrine in order to recover the mask. Seeing as masks seem to be found so often in shrines. En route, a man in a crowd gave me a note telling me to meet him at the hilltop on the far end of town for information on Groll. Did you get the same?
I did, but I ignored it because I was suspicious. Because Groll is constantly trying to sort of take you out.
You may have been wise because it's a trap. Who would have guessed? No. When I got there, I was chased around the hilltop in the middle of the night in a rainstorm by an obsidian monster for a while. knocked me around and was just about to kill me when it was mercifully struck by lightning.
Oh, that was lucky.
Yes, I think perhaps taking a bit of mercy on me there. But by the time I got to the temple, I discovered that the mask had already been stolen by Groll.
Curses.
No.
He's one step ahead a lot of the time. It's very scary.
Did he steal your mask?
Yes. No, I didn't. Since I didn't follow it, I managed to get there while there was still a mask, and then, well, when I said I solved the problem, I remembered flicking through the book when I was about 15 and solving the problem then. So
that definitely counts as cheating. You're not allowed to do that.
I'm not allowed to. I'm sure. Yes, no one's ever cheated in a fighting fantasy book. I'm sure.
Never. We're never allowed to cheat, and you'll remember that for the next episode as well, I'm sure.
Definitely. Yes. No cheating whatsoever. Yes.
So after that, I went to the tavern where I needed to meet two body snatchers, as you know. They gave me the drink, and I managed to wake up a few hours later, still reeling from the drugged ale. Find all my possessions had been stolen. Nice.
Oh no, those body snatchers! You can't trust them an inch. They're terrible.
So the last item, the wooden hand of the executed thief. Go to the gallows square, same as yourself, sneaking through the gibbet and avoiding the executioners as they kicked a beggar for some horrible, unpleasant reason, possibly because he's a beggar. You know these people.
Yes.
It's like, the weird executioners will just go around and kick them. They maybe will become MPs. Just as you do.
Exactly.
Found the hand, not too much trouble. Needed to take the hand to the necromancer to have it enchanted. Necromancer lived in a big dark house, probably called Mansion Sinister.
Probably that would be a good name for it. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and then yes, I remember that. He tells you not to follow him, doesn't he? Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
So he tells us, stay in this room, do not follow me. And what do our listeners think we both choose? Where they say, do not come through this forbidden door. Do not open this door no matter what you hear, no matter what happens, do not open this door. Did you go through the door?
I didn't. I was a good boy.
Okay. Well, you'll be continuing this adventure then.
It's almost like he wanted you to, the way he says it so many times, isn't it?
I know.
And he also leaves you in a dark room. It's like, you find yourself in a dark room and there's no light switch. And so he makes you just sit in a dark room. So I can imagine why you'd like to go through the door.
Mm-hmm.
But there we go.
I will tell you that upon deciding to go through the door, my adventure ended very, very soon after I made that decision. Very soon thereafter.
Yes.
With a lot of screaming and yelling, and the sounds of the mortal mind snapping like broken glass, and eyes being burned with the images of something called the necrotic wilderness of Kiryan.
Oh wow, that sounds pretty. That's a bit of a downer, isn't it?
How did your adventure go?
Well, okay, so I managed to stay in the dark room and not find a light switch, but he eventually came out with the hand that was magical now, and sort of gave opponents a skill penalty at the cost of 1 stamina point, which is pretty decent, I think. And then I go back to the tavern and watch it very closely. And because I went to the insane asylum and met the inmates, I actually found the woman whose painting was in a locket that the inmate gave me. And she told me where Karamgrul is, a place called Hope's End, which, to be fair, if you told me there was a place called Hope's End, then you probably wouldn't have gone through all the shenanigans to get there. You probably would have, well, obviously, he's a war criminal and a general. He's going to live in a place called Hope's End. So There we go.
Yeah, I feel that every Fighting Fantasy book ends in a location called Hope's End in one form or another.
Well, exactly. Yes, that is true. So yeah, Stephen Hunn gets a bit more literal with this one. Yeah, it's called yes. So what happens next is I'm walking along the road and I find there's a big army coming down the road as well. So I've got to hide from them, and it's all of Karen Gruel's old soldiers. They're all he's getting the band back together. So it's orcs, trolls, werebeasts, Brycian nobles. They're the bad ones, I think.
They're on a mission from God.
Yes, well, exactly. Yes, they're definitely they've got to get the money there before it closes. So yeah, we're doing a lot of film references today, aren't we?
Don't we always? Okay, so what have we hit so far? We started with Blade Runner. We done.
I've watched Shuts.
Kubrick, yeah, and now we're on to Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Shall we do any others before we get to the end of the year?
We probably will. I mean, well, yes. I mean, there's a lot of Hammer horror film references, so I'm sure we can get some in. But yeah, I mean, well, I'm sure we will. I'm sure. Actually, there is one reference we could do. It's not a film because, well, Hope's End is also the place where Karen Gruel's tower was, called the Tower of Inquisition. So
that sounds nice.
Yes, so it's like he's going back to where he was. So, and it seems that nobody expected the Tower of Inquisition.
Oh,
was that a bit forced? That was
dreadful. That was dreadful. If our listeners think that was dreadful, leave us a comment.
Great, we'll get a lot of comments there then. And if you want more dreadful jokes, follow me on Twitter. So there we go. Yeah, so what happens next? Karen Gruel's getting a zombie army to build his Tower of Inquisition again. Galantrian zombie armies. So there you go. Karen Gruel's got a good sense of irony. He's getting his old enemies, the corpses of his old enemies, to rebuild his tower. So that's pretty. I mean, he's got flair, hasn't he, Karen Gruel? He's definitely. Yeah. He's one of the better villains. He's sort of, he tries to kill you. He kills you all your contacts. He sort of, and then he uses the dead bodies of his enemies to rebuild his old tower. I mean, he's definitely
like him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I sneak through the army of zombies and have to fight one of them, but that goes okay. And then I end up right in the middle of his tower, where he's just giving a speech to his entire army, and I've just walked into them. So that's pretty hairy, but it's okay. Well, firstly of all, they're so shocked that you just walk in there, but and then a few of them start fighting me, including and I'd love your input on this. So there's 6 people. There's the landlady of the inn. One of them's called an Orc Stoat Strangler, which raised a lot of questions in my mind.
I do not see why you would find anything to question about that.
Maybe I don't know much about the ancient art of stoat strangling, but
okay. Well, the first thing you have to do is to catch a stoat, and they are notoriously difficult to catch. So this orc has to have great dexterity to be able to catch one. Has to be fast. Has to be nimble. They also bite. So especially if you try to strangle them, they bite fiercely. So this just kind of says to everyone else, I am a very fast and very pain resistant orc. It radiates that. I'm just making this up as I go along, aren't I?
Well, it explains why this all.
I mean that's what I think. I might just be making that up entirely, but So Stoat Strangling Orc, the toughest of all orcs, I think.
Well, yeah, skill 8, stamina 6. There aren't many orcs tougher than that. So yeah, definitely. So the Stoat Strangling Orc's obviously very accomplished in the ancient and noble art of stoat strangling.
Yes, proving his might beyond all others. So you hacked down the Stoat Strangling Orc, and ran up to Groll, and
I had to climb up 2 ornate columns, and sorry, I might have said Grull earlier. It wasn't Grull; it was Lieutenant Radu the Magus. But we'll get to that because this is the bit I said earlier where there's one of two skills that you need. Otherwise, it's an auto death or an insta death.
I'm guessing one of them is climbing.
It is actually, yes.
Given that you've just climbed up a bunch of columns. Exactly,
yes. I didn't have climbing though. I had lockpicking, which is the other one, which allows me to spot the secret door. And so I run up some stairs. I get to Radu, who then turns out to be actually Karam Groll in a Radu suit. He sort of bursts out of the Radu suit. It turns out he's been hiding as his assistant the whole time.
I'm confused. I thought you said that it wasn't Groll, it was Radu.
Yes, but then it turns out it was actually Groll as well, in a Radu suit.
I'm confused. What's a Radu suit?
Radu is the name of this Magus, who was supposed to be Karam Groll's lieutenant, but it turns out Radu was not a real person, and that Groll had been walking around in the skin of someone who looks like Radu, who's a made-up person, like the Slitheen from Doctor Who, or I can't think of any other situation where someone's walking around looking like someone else, but that kind of thing. I don't know if he was a real person or what the Radu suit is made from. Probably best not to think about that.
I'll try not to think at all. I very rarely think at the best of times.
Well, yes, thinking about what the Radu suit is made from is probably a good idea, or not a good idea. So Karam Groll's there with the remains of this fake person underneath him, and so this is when he starts casting his Natura spells at you, and this is when those items that you've been sent to collect come in handy, because he gets a certain number of points to cast the spells. And then there are 6 spells he could cast, and one of them could just kill you instantly, and then one of them can kind of kill you later, and then one of them can get rid of all your skills, and then the other 3, one drains skill, one drains stamina, one drains luck. But it has no effect if you have the right item to protect you. So so Karam Groll cast the one on me that gets rid of my skills, but I had the vampire blood, so that stopped it from happening. Which was useful. And then he was going to cast another spell on me, but the Corpse Master, who I'd conned
from earlier,
yes, he turns up, he materializes and starts attacking Groll himself, because I'd conned him thinking that Groll was trying to betray him. So the Corpse Master stops Groll from casting other spells on me, which is useful.
So it paid off.
It did.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's good if you can con the Corpse Master. If you don't have con, then you'd have to think of some other way, some other thing you can do. So then Groll kills the Corpse Master. Then he tries to kill me with this device called the Ethereal Projector, which is basically a big laser.
Does it look like the laser, like big epic sci-fi, kind of like 1940s kind of sci-fi looking laser with lots of like dishes and buzzing orbs? Does it have buzzing orbs and satellite dishes?
It probably does. They just say it's a bizarre contraption, and they don't really show it in the book. But I expect it would, because this is a Stephen Ham book, and that's very pulpy. So
yes, this is one of my favorite things about this book and Shadow Warriors, Legend of Shadow Warriors, by the same author. They both have very strong like pulp film kind of vibes. They all kind of reference things like Castle of Dr. Frankenstein, all of those kind of things, which is just lovely. So I could totally picture that in this adventure.
Yes, definitely. Well, yes, his ethereal projector sort of death ray thing doesn't work because you push him aside, because now he's run out of Natura. He's pretty weak, and so you just use it on the Cabal. On his all his old soldiers, so you get rid of them.
Oh, cool!
And then you ride across. You're trying to ride back to Galantria with Groll, and then you tell him the secret. You tell him why you have this score to settle with him, and that's that Grull turned you into a bizarre creature that he controlled during the War of the Four Kingdoms, and so he probably made you commit a load of atrocities, and you had and you had no say into it. So that's why you wanted to bring him in. But unfortunately, in telling
it really
him that,
was a personal grudge.
it was definitely, that's pretty nasty. But because you tell him this, he's tries to activate the sort of subconscious command is stuck in your head the whole time, and you have to pass a stamina test which I did, because I had a high skill, so I didn't lose much stamina, and then basically you just go back to the capital city. You do have the option of hanging around and fighting some soldiers, but it's probably just best to go back to Royal Lendley, and there you take him back, and he stands trial for all of his war crimes, which is
success.
Yeah, success. So you don't kill him. There's no chance of killing him. You actually make him stand trial and show that justice is served, and so yes. And it's not on section 400. I'm not going to say which section the winning one is, but there's a picture of Grawl standing trial, and someone's reading the charges, and everyone's looking at him and sort of disapprovingly, apart from two people in the front row who look like they're canoodling, which I thought was a bit weird. They look like they're going to kiss each other, which is
okay.
Yeah. So I don't know why they thought that a war crimes trial is
that in the illustrations?
Yeah, there's sort of, you can see a man sort of smiling, and then someone's got their face turned towards him. You've got the back of their heads towards you, and you're sort of like, yeah, they look like they're having a lovely date at this war crimes trial. So yes. And I think it looks like there's someone behind them going, "What are you doing? We're at a war crimes trial." So,
see, one of my favorite things with this one is the illustrations. They are genuinely beautiful, densely atmospheric, and really kind of bring the adventure to life. And you really get the feeling that you're traversing this large Gothic city.
Yes, it's absolutely brilliant. Yes, it's very atmospheric. So this is brilliant. Who is the illustrator? Oh, Martin McKenna. Oh,
of course it is. Yes, yeah. God, you can tell all of his artwork is just fantastic.
It is. It's brilliant.
And he was just a young lad when he was making these as well.
Wow. He was definitely in the zone. So yeah,
I like Grull as an antagonist. It always feels like he's a few steps ahead of you. Just kind of, if you make the wrong choice at any point, he'll be there like laying traps for you and just kind of scheming. I really enjoy him as an antagonist, and you rated him quite highly as well in the blog, didn't you?
Yes. So when I wrote my blog, I did. So I did 26 villains in alphabetical. He came second because he's a few steps ahead, like you say. He kills off all your contacts before you see them. He's always laying traps, like you say. Yeah, I mean, he only came second because the top one was Dark Lord Nag from Lone Wolf, and Darkwood Nag's in the whole Magna Chi series.
Yeah.
So he only lost out to Darkwood Nag because because Karen Grull's in one book rather than about 7 or so.
Yeah.
But there we go.
We'll have to look into doing the Lone Wolf series as well.
Oh, that'll be good. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Now that the definitive editions are out, it's.
I have the first 3.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Yeah. So sorry. At time of recording, I have the first 3.
Oh yes. The rest will be out. The rest, I'm sure, will be coming out at some point.
I hope so. Yes. So, shall we give Moonrunner a score out of it's out of 5 for each of us?
Yes.
What will you give it?
Me? I'm not sure. Maybe no, it's a 5. Definitely a 5 for me.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I was thinking maybe a 2. But no, I'm going to give it a 5.
Yes, exactly.
Which makes it the first of the adventures to have a full 5 out of 5.
Yes,
from each of us.
Yes,
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yes, I mean, yes, it's pretty much perfect. it's it's a brilliant book. I mean, we didn't even. There's plenty of things that neither of us came across, despite taking different paths. Like the Shocker, which is some random monster, and there's a bit where you could go to a village that's overrun by these zombies called fog walkers. Yes, and there's various other things. There's a Zen serpent. There's various other assassins.
There's and the thing is, like, the adventure itself, you have a time limit, so there's only so many of the locations you can go to.
Yes.
So that does add to the replay value quite a lot. Each of them feels quite self-contained, like the shrine, the Chamber of Horrors. They're all quite self-contained, but they don't feel like entirely standalone. They feel like they contribute overall to the whole of the setting, which is lovely. It's a really nice method to kind of traverse, because you can do one adventure where you're thinking, I'm going to choose these skills and I'll go to that location. So yeah, really good replay value, I think.
Yes, definitely, it's brilliant. So yes.
So yeah, Moonrunner, 10 out of 10 from us, and hopefully we will get the chance to play is Legend of the Shadow Warriors a precursor or a sequel? I'm not sure.
It happens before. It's it happens before in the timeline, but it's a different adventure. There's a bit of overlap, so there's Dr. Calderswelch, who in Legend of the Shadow Warriors, so she's a Dr. Frankenstein type person, and you could kill her in Legend of the Shadow Warriors, but then her son turns up in Moonrunner using insane asylum inmates to make her a new body. So and then there's other things, like there's mandrakes, which are the shape-shifting plant creatures. They're in both, which are probably based on the body snatchers from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So so there's various crossovers. I think in Legend of the Shadow Warriors, you're also a mercenary who used to be in the War of the Four Kingdoms. I think that's relevant at the beginning, where you it turns out you owe a lot of taxes for some reason. So there you go. But yes, so there's a lot of crossover,
we might very well end up playing it in the second season of the podcast of Firetop Mountain, if there is a second season. Would you like there to be a second season? Listeners, do let us know if you would like for there to be another season of the podcast of Firetop Mountain, where we might very well end up playing the Legend of the Shadow Warriors, amongst many, many others.
Yes, definitely.
Possibly, yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, and do all the usual things. We will be back in a week's time playing a whole new adventure, and I do mean a whole new adventure, because the one that we have due next week is the most recent of the Fighting Fantasy books. Stuart, would you like to introduce it?
Yes, it's Crystal of Storms by Rhianna Pratchett.
Yes.
So that's very exciting, because Rhianna Pratchett's written a lot of computer games. Very
prolific, very talented author. We are looking forward to getting stuck into Crystal of Storms. Join us this time next week. And this has been the podcast of Firetop Mountain. I am Alison Cybe.
I'm Stuart Lloyd.
And we will see you then. Thank you for joining us. The podcast from Firetop Mountain is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, ring the bell, and do all the other things you need to do in order to get another season of the podcast from Firetop Mountain.